So here we are again, back by surprisingly unpopular demand. I've spent the last couple of days feverishly responding to comments on a couple of Nightwish videos that I did. The response to those videos has been astonishing. It really has encouraged me to keep doing this, to keep seeing if I can open and start these conversations with people. But before I continue on that journey, I wanted to drop back a little bit into my own personal sort of comfort zone and take a look at a songwriter, a lyric writer who is certainly one of my favorites, if not in some ways, certainly my emotional home, is Steve Hogarth and the lyrics that he writes. They somehow speak to me in a particularly deep way. He writes in a particular style about a particular set of emotions that really communicate with me in a very deep way. Certainly, I would say Hogarth communicates with me as deeply as Tomas communicates so clearly with the Nightwish fan base. But of course, that experience of dealing with Nightwish and the greatest show on earth made me go and look into the Marillion catalogue for a lyric that felt like it was the next step in that conversation, the next evolutionary step, if you will, in my conversation about lyrics. And I've gone with quite a deep pull on an album that I don't know if this album was a smash. I don't know if it sits in at the top of many people's lists. But as you dig into it, it contains an awful lot of really interesting songs and some incredible lyrics. And this particular song, while there is no typical Marillion song, this is an atypical Marillion song. It doesn't have the same sound as a lot of Marillion songs. It's as they were exploring. The only way I can think to describe it is a more trippy, more sequence-based sound. And yet the lyric contains for me, some of the most important lyrics, certainly some of the most profound lyrics I think Steve Hogarth has written, and lyrics that are relevant to the ongoing conversation that I hope that we're having. So this is the 21st Century by Marillion, and I've instead of indulging myself and going with a live version that we filmed at the Astoria in London during the Marbles tour, and I nearly did, I've gone with the album version because it's the cleanest sound and the cleanest version of this very specific, atypical Marillion song. This is the 21st Century. I think in the time that I was working with Marillion, the thing that surprised me the most was to discover how much of their writing is improvisational in nature. Much of it is five guys going into a room and playing sounds and music together, and then looking at those results and stitching things together and then layering things on top of them. And I was particularly impressed by how so often the result can sound like it was always planned to be that way, like that was exactly what every note should be in that moment. Because by the time they've finished improvising, they've created something incredibly specific.
Sexual organ
So do you see, if you've been part of this ongoing journey, how this speaks to Nightwish, the greatest show on earth, a song about evolutionary biology, a song about the history of the planet, a song about the science of life. And here we've got Steve Hogarth talking about life from a completely different starting point. Here we've got Hogarth effectively, in some ways, looking at the Richard Dawkins view of the world and making a counter argument. Yes, a flower is a sexual organ. There's an argument that beauty is cruelty and evolution and simply one set of things making itself as attractive as possible for another set of things in order to procreate the species in an absolutely biological way. A wise man once said that everything could be explained with mathematics. But he denied his feminine side, and is that wise? So here we've got Steve Hogarth taking the position that not everything is explicable by science. And even if you can break everything down into fractions and into percentage points and into statistics, and even if you can win every argument with logic, where is the wisdom in that?
I came just as fast as I could through the dirty air of your neighborhood. Your name on a grade of rice hanging around my neck, and the headlight light. This is the 21st century. I heard everything they said. The universe demystified. Chemicals forgot. This is the 21st century.
So, one of the things I do know about Steve Hogarth's writing is he consistently writes about big themes and big ideas and arguably big philosophies. And then he intersperses that writing with deeply personal, oddly specific things sometimes. Banana spiders, pots of paint, he will throw that line in, which is such a deep, specific reference to his father and his father's time in the Merchant Marine, in the middle of a song where his intention is not that we understand the specific, but that from the specific we get a tone. So there's probably a key change as we drop into this verse. I don't know. I don't have the musical language to talk about the composition, but the written composition is he jumps from the thesis of the 21st century to what feels like a very specific story. You know, he's got a call. He's come traveling to this person whose name he carries on a grain of rice. I don't even know if they still do that, but at the time that this song was being written and made at the start of 2001, you could go to the flea markets in Johannesburg and someone would write your name on a piece of rice, and then they put it in a little glass thing and you put that around your neck on a piece of leather, and that was a deeply sort of intimate, romantic, personal thing to do. So he's coming to see this person that means the world to him for whatever reason. He came fast, so there was a reason. And he had a head like lead. This is a story that I don't understand. I don't know the details of this story. I can see it cinematically. I can see the video I would make if I had a budget to do it. But I don't know of which Hogarth is writing. I just know that tonally, He completely has me with the story. And then we get into the chorus. This is the 21st century. The universe has been demystified. Now, okay, there's an argument that says the more you explore, I keep referring back to it because it's so in my mind, the more you explore the greatest show on earth at the level that Tomas did for Nightwish, where he was writing about things I had to look up, and layers of sort of biology and chemistry and physics that are themselves mysterious in their specificity. But at the same time, there is an argument that they are designed to demystify, to swap our belief in the intangible unknown with the God of science, chemicals for God. So we've gone thesis, beautiful opening story, thesis, and then we're back into thesis.
A wise man once wrote that love is only an ancient instinct for reproduction, natural selection. A wise man once said that everything could be explained, and it's all in the brain.
It's the same theme. It's a slightly different take on it, but it's the same theme. Love doesn't exist. It's only chemistry. It's only instinct. Everything is explicable. Everything is understandable at a level of what the chemicals in your brain are doing. It's all in. This is what a wise man. This is what, of what little I know, this is what a Richard Dawkins says. That everything is explicable simply as on the basis of chemistry and biology, and it can all be explained. Now, where is the wisdom in that? And then we're back to the story.
On a velvet rug by the open fire, she blew air on my eyelids. I cried, what's it all about? She kissed my hand. She said this is the 21st century.
I'm going to stop it because the chorus isn't the same, and the next piece of the chorus is quite important. So let's look at this verse again. It has the feeling of a very specific, intimate story. It also has the feeling of a movie. I can see that scene. I can see the velvet rug. I can see the open fire. I can see a man and a woman together. And now we know, as he cries, what's it all about? She says, there. Now we know that his head like lead is a man in existential crisis, a man who is clearly struggling with the world and has come to this woman for comfort. Now, even as I speak, it occurs to me that right there is in many ways a subversion of the norm. The sort of norm of Western culture is that the man comforts the woman. And yet this is about what wise men say, while this man is going to pieces and this woman is offering wisdom that is not quite the same. This woman is offering EQ instead of IQ.
This is the 21st century. I heard everything you said. The universe demystified. Astronomy instead. This is the 21st
So, at the back end of this chorus, this ain't the way it was meant to be. Magic isn't dead. Steve Hogarth, on a number of occasions, has written about forms of magic. A song, I think probably at a similar time to this, what I have here in my hand is like faith but not faith. He was writing about love. Here, the magic he's writing about is come to bed. The magic he's writing about is love. And all of the wisdom of those wise men does not allow for love, the indefinable thing, not the chemical thing, the indefinable thing that is magic. And rest your heavy head, my love. See what I mean about a very trippy sound? Quite unlike Marillion, even if Marillion have a sort of natural sound, this is not it. Steve Rothery. I mean, and slowly from above, that's a mental picture. She showed the answers something that can't be written down. Magic isn't dead. Come to bed. The answer is something that can't be written down. Now, as a postscript, as a subnote, another of the recurring themes for Steve Hogarth is the idea of trying to write something that can't be written, repeatedly writing something that has been written time and time again. The endless quest he seems to be on to write his words under our skin. But this woman, her EQ, was the demonstration of the answer to his questions as being something for which you cannot calculate with a slide rule, that you can't write into a formula. And now we get into the heart of the piece. This album, Arachnophobia, was released early mid 2001. So before the towers fell. This lyric wasn't written about the two towers. It was written, I think, about another ongoing disaster, banking and the corporate world, flash to crash and burn. The man up in the mirrored building that just bought the world was not a reference to 9/11. But for me at least, and I think probably for quite a few people, but for me it became one. It became so irrevocably entwined with that. I was at the War Museum in South Africa, in Johannesburg, recceing for a location for a corporate event when we got news that a plane had flown into the World Trade Center. And we assumed it was some idiot tourist. By the time I got back to the office, it was clear what was happening. And I sat there and I watched the buildings fall and I watched the world change. And I will never in my life forget the image of the falling man and the sound of those bodies as people leapt from that mirrored building as it crashed and burnt. And when I hear this lyric written so close to 9/11, I cannot help be at 9/11. And I cannot help but feel like the next two verses are absolutely pertinent to that feeling, to that memory, and ultimately to the thesis of this song about what the world really is all about. There's a man up in a mirrored building, he just bought the world. He came just as fast as he could through the dirty air of your neighborhood with his head like lead. She blew air on his eyelids, she whispered, "There, there." She showed him that magic isn't dead. And he asked her the question, as we understand what it is that brought him here, this existential crisis, this idea that no one's going to give you anything for nothing, this idea that the world is a brutal, thoughtless place. He asked her, would you want to have kids growing up into what's left of this? And she shook her head and she said, can't you see? The world is you, the world is me. And that, for me, is one of the most powerful lines that Steve Hogarth ever wrote. The world is you, the world is me. Whatever is going on in your life, no matter how brutal the world may be, no matter what buildings may crash and burn, ultimately the world remains people that are important to you. And as long as you have those people, the world is you, the world is me. And this is Steve Rothery, being Steve Rothery. And we should honour that. He doesn't play all the notes, just the right ones. So yeah, a wise man says everything can be explained. Steve Hogarth says magic isn't dead. And the wise woman said, Steve, the world is you, the world is me. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's an amazing lyric. In a particularly, for me anyway, unusual Marillion song, playing as it does with this. This ain't the way it was meant to be. Magic isn't dead. Come to bed. And rest your heavy head, my love. And slowly from above she showed the answers, something that can't be written down. This is an incredible, for me, philosophy, an incredible piece of writing, a personal story, and a look at philosophy and science and the 21st century. I hope you've enjoyed this. I have. Back in the pocket. We'll creep around and look at something else in the next few days. Until then, thank you for watching. Keep the faith.